All right, today we're diving into one of the most, psychologically tough ideas in the whole study of power, the surrender tactic. It's a concept that really forces you to question your deepest instincts about what courage and honor even mean. It suggests that sometimes the smartest path to victory isn't to fight harder, it's to yield.
Think about it. We're all raised on these incredible stories of heroic last stands, of glorious defeats where people fight to the bitter end. But what if that powerful, primal instinct to go down swinging is actually a trap? What if the most strategic, the most powerful move you can make is to do the one thing that feels unthinkable and surrender? That's the paradox we're digging into today.
I know. This strategy feels completely backward. It just cuts against everything we're taught about courage and defiance. But as we're about to see, this exact tactic has been used all throughout history to outwit some of the most powerful aggressors and, get this, even topple empires from the inside out.
The law itself is brutally direct. When you're weaker, you should never fight for the sake of honor. You should choose to surrender instead. Now, this is not about giving up, not at all. It is a calculated, strategic move designed to deny your enemy the one thing they crave, the satisfaction of a fight. You refuse to give them that emotional release of crushing you, and in exchange, you gain the most valuable resource there is: time. Time to recover, time for their power to fade, and time to plot your own comeback.
And this is the absolute core of the strategy. Surrendering is an active move, not a passive one. You are consciously choosing to yield. And it's this unexpected passivity that just completely confuses your enemy. I mean, they're geared up for resistance, they're expecting a struggle. When you simply don't give them one, you seize psychological control. You turn what should be their moment of victory into this baffling, deeply unsatisfying anticlimax.
To really get the power of this law, we need to look at what happens when it's totally ignored. And for that, our first stop is ancient Greece, for a truly tragic cautionary tale, the story of the island of Melos.
The story is as brutal as it is simple. The Athenian Empire, this massive power, showed up at the small island of Melos with an ultimatum: submit to us or we will destroy you. The Melians, they clung to their ideas of honor and this false hope that their allies, the Spartans, would come and save them. So they chose to fight. The result? Total annihilation. Their noble defiance bought them absolutely nothing but their own extinction.
And this is exactly where the Melians made their fatal mistake. They saw their weakness as something that had to be overcome with brave words and defiance, instead of seeing it for what it was, a tool to be used. If they had surrendered, they could have saved their people. They could have waited for Athens' power to inevitably decline, and they could have lived to see another day. But instead, they chose martyrdom. And martyrdom is a really poor prize when the alternative is survival.
Okay, so let's pivot from that story of complete failure to an absolute masterclass in how to apply this law correctly. We're going to jump forward in time to 1947, right into the middle of the intense political paranoia of post-war America. This is where a German playwright was about to turn a hostile congressional hearing into a stage for his own unique brand of genius. That playwright was Bertolt Brecht, and he was summoned before the infamous House Un-American Activities Committee. A lot of his peers, the people known as the Hollywood 19, they chose the path of Milos. They chose open confrontation. They challenged the committee's authority, they made these passionate speeches, and they were promptly blacklisted. Their careers were destroyed. Brecht saw what happened to them and chose a radically different path. Brecht's performance was, and I'm not kidding, a work of art. He didn't fight back. He completely disarmed his opponents with this mask of cooperation. He calmly smoked his cigar. He answered every single question politely. And he used this subtle, evasive language that sounded reasonable but gave them absolutely nothing of substance. The committee was baffled. I mean, how could they get angry at a man who was so polite, so seemingly cooperative? He completely neutralized their power. It was like trying to punch smoke. This proverb, it perfectly captures Brecht's strategy. On the surface, he bowed. He showed all this respect to the great lord, the committee. But inwardly, his polite answers were an act of profound contempt. He surrendered on the surface so he could win the war underneath. And the very next day, he left the country, completely unharmed, with his career totally intact. So, we've seen a catastrophic failure, and we've seen a masterful success. Now, let's really break this down. Let's distill the core principles, so we can understand the psychology and the practical application of this really powerful tactic.
The secret to the surrender tactic lies in this crucial disconnect. You have to maintain your inner resolve while projecting outward flexibility. That gap, the space between what your opponent expects you to do and what you actually do, that becomes your weapon. It makes them drop their guard. And while they're off celebrating their hollow little victory, you are regrouping, you're learning, and you're waiting for that perfect moment for your power to reemerge.
And make no mistake, this strategy isn't just for short-term encounters. History shows it working on a huge scale. Take King Gujin. He endured a humiliating defeat and then humbly served his conqueror for years, all while secretly plotting the revenge that he would eventually get. Or think about 19th century Japan. Facing superior Western military might, they didn't fight a hopeless war. No, they surrendered to Western influence. They absorbed every lesson they could, and within just a few decades, they had transformed into a global power themselves.
This ancient metaphor, it's the perfect way to visualize this entire law. The rigid oak tree that tries to resist the storm, that stands tall and defiant, it's going to eventually snap. But the flexible one, the one that bends with the wind, it survives, and its roots only grow stronger in the process. Stubborn defiance leads to breaking. True strength lies in the ability to yield strategically.
This, of course, raises a really critical question. The tactic sounds effective, but surely there are times when it's precisely the wrong thing to do? And you would be absolutely right. Like all the laws of power, this one has a vital reversal.
Here's the critical distinction you have to make. If you are facing an enemy whose goal is your complete and total annihilation, then surrender is pointless. If their aim is to destroy you no matter what, then yielding just makes their job easier. In those rare, truly dire situations, defiance and fighting to the very end might just be your only rational option.
And this highlights the fundamental difference in what you're trying to achieve. The surrender tactic is a practical tool for your own survival and your eventual victory. Martyrdom, on the other hand, it abandons personal survival for a symbolic goal, to inspire others. It's a noble idea, but it's an incredibly unpredictable gamble. For every one martyr who inspires a movement, there are thousands who are simply forgotten. The whole point of Law 22 is to stay in the game long enough to see the pendulum of power swing back in your favor.
And that brings us to the final, challenging question for you. We are all conditioned to equate strength with resistance, with pushing back. But this law forces us to look at our own lives, our careers, our negotiations, our personal conflicts, and ask ourselves, where might the greatest show of strength not be in fighting back, but in strategically, thoughtfully, and temporarily yielding?